What's up, baseball players, coaches, and parents? I'm Coach Dan Blewett. In today's video, we're going to go over catcher signs. What to give, how to give them, pick-off plays, holds, pitch-outs, all the different 1, 2, 3, 4 combinations for fastball, slider, cutter, changeup, curveball, all that stuff. So in today's video, we're going to go over the basics of catcher signs. All right, so let's jump right into it. Number one, this is important, and a lot of young players make this mistake, is you can't be giving signs way down here because players at first base, second base, third base, they're gonna be able to pick up these signs. They're gonna be able to read them from different angles aside from your leg. So whenever you are giving signs as a catcher, you really gotta tuck your fist up by your cup, and you have to wear a cup if you're a catcher. If you don't, be sure to get on that. But make sure you tuck it up into your crotch so that when you give these signs, they're going to be concealed by your thighs, okay? So that's a basic thing that has to be done. A lot of youth pitchers miss this by giving signs too far below their crotch. And another quick tip for hiding your signs is just keeping your glove kind of like hanging around your knee. You'll see catchers do this. It just almost creates like a curtain where now the third base coach definitely can't see the signs that I'm giving. Okay, so let's go into the basic. We'll do the numbers first, and then we'll do some of like the pickoff plays, pitch out, stuff like that second. And obviously you can jump through the timestamps or the chapters, which you'll see in the scrubber or in the description of this video below. All right, so let's talk about fastball first. This is the number one sign. We'll cover location for all signs at the end, and fastball is gonna be the one that you're gonna call location for the most. But a fastball is just a straight one. If you wanna go in, you can go here. If you wanna go out or just to this side, you go here. So you can easily indicate with using the pinky or the index finger, whether the index finger is down to the side or the pinky is to this side. So fastball is really, really easy. Now, we need to distinguish between four-seamers and two-seamers, and here's the thing, they're just one pitch. So you don't need a 1 for four-seamer and 2 for two-seamer, for example. That's not a thing that you do. Fastball is fastball. Cutter is a different pitch. That we'll talk about later. But for four-seamers or two-seamers / sinkers, they just fall under 1. And this is where the catcher's communication matters. The catcher just needs to talk with his pitcher. Hey, what kind of fastball do you throw? I throw a really heavy running two-seamer. Okay, so the catcher's just gonna know when he puts down 1, it's gonna have a little bit of run to it. It's just communication. Now, in the rare instance where a pitcher does have a really good two-seamer or sinker that has a lot of movement, and they also throw a four-seamer that they use purposefully, like maybe they throw that to the glove side, or they elevate the four-seamer only, which is something you should do exclusively anyway, then the catcher might say, hey, this is fastball, and then if I wiggle it, that means I want a sinker. Or if I wiggle that fastball finger, I want the two-seamer. So that's one way to differentiate it. But again, most of the time with a two-seamer just having a little bit of arm side run or a little bit of sink, the catcher doesn't need a different sign. He just needs to know which speed of pitch is coming in. All right, the number 2, this is for curveball. This should always be curveball. It is the universal sign for curveball. So when the catcher sign is 2, that is a curveball. Don't misassign these. Don't make this a slider for a pitcher that throws only a fastball and a slider. 2 is always reserved for curveball because catchers, they're going to give these signs universally. So even if a pitcher throws a fastball and a slider only, he's not going to go 1 and 2. He's going to go 1 and 3 because 3 is the slider sign. So 2 is for curveball. Again, there's not a whole lot of variation for this one. This one's not complicated. We'll talk about location at the end, but 2 is curveball. All right, sign number 3 is slider. So when the catcher puts down the sign for 3, that is slider, or it's a cutter if the pitcher does not throw a slider. Now, if a pitcher throws a slider and a cutter, which does happen at the really high levels of baseball, which is not going to apply to you watching this video in most cases, then we might do a different sign. Maybe it's 4 is the cutter, or it's a 1 with a wiggle is the cutter, and 3 remains the slider. But 3 is the universal sign for slider. And you'll see that I'm using these 3 fingers, the OK fingers, because they're easier to differentiate from the 2. So 2 can easily become 3, but it's gonna get mistaken sometimes. Say the catcher does it like this, I've got 3 up, but this one's kind of in the shadows. You don't want miscommunication. So once you go to 2, you want to go to OK for the 3. And it's easier for them to say, do this, or to tuck over here with their hand if they're going location. So when you go to slider sign, this is always going to be 3. You want to do the OK as a catcher. All right, catcher sign number 4 is not really technically 4, it is, but we really call it wiggle. So when I pitched, I threw a fastball, a curveball, a changeup, and a cutter. So, but most of the time I would just throw fastball, curveball, changeup. So it'd be like 1-2 wiggle. You know, we go and have our catcher meeting and be like, all right, so fastball, curveball, changeup, all right, 1-2 wiggle, okay. So the wiggle, the 4 fingers, just because again, this is the same reason that you want to do the okay fingers for your slider versus the middle fingers for your slider for 3, just because it starts to get confusing. You see a lot of fingers, and when they're flashed around a lot, it can be tough to figure out was that 3 or was that 4? Was that 2 or was that 3? So they wiggle the 4 for the changeup. So 1 fastball, 2 curveball, 3 slider, wiggle, changeup. That's pretty much the universal signs for all these different pitches. Now, in the case that a pitcher threw a 5th pitch, it's probably a cutter or it's probably a sinker where it's so good that it needs to be differentiated, like we said. So that's probably going to mean if you have a 5th pitch, it's the wiggle fastball, but you could do hook 'em horns. So 5 would be hook 'em horns. You're probably not going to do this just because, again, fingers get lost. So it'd probably be like 5 would be hook 'em horns. But some teams use this for pickoff plays, which we'll cover in a second. All right, so let's cover location for every pitch. So with fastball, this is very, very easy because the straight finger means over the plate, over here means this side, pinky means this side. So middle, this side, okay? Now, if you're gonna give a up location, which would only be applied to a 4-seamer, wouldn't apply to a 2-seamer, you know, we'd go here and he would just do this, something like that, here, up, up. Very, very simple, easy to understand as a pitcher. Now, that's the one location that really needs to be differentiated. So if it's like 0-2 and the catcher puts down this, you're thinking, okay, I don't want to throw a fastball down the middle 0-2. So the catcher is going to go here and then he's going to say, I want a fastball and I want it up. All right, so that's the easy way to do location. So these general rules here are going to apply to every pitch. So if you want slider over here, you go 3 and you go like that. If you want 2 over here, you might, or if it's like, hey, we really need to bury this curveball, you go 2 and maybe like do some kind of signal down. But most of the time, we don't need to be signaling stuff like that. If it's 0-2 or 1-2 and he goes curveball, we should know that this needs to be buried in the ground, okay? So with all that stuff, communication should happen before the at-bat. So this is what the catcher meeting, in the dugout, and just on your team understanding, hey, this is what this means when we say slider on an 0-2 count. It's always going to be on the corner, or it's always going to be a bounce, right? Something like that. So you don't need too much communication when you're already communicating well as a team between coaches and players and between pitchers and catchers. So again, location, real simple. Move the fingers around, wiggle here, do all that stuff, fastball up. But again, good communication before the at-bat goes a long way. All right, so let's talk about some of the alternate signs that you can use that are not called for pitches. So pickoffs to first base or second base, pickoff plays, or pitch outs. So the first one, very easy, is the fist. This signifies a pitch out. And if you don't know what a pitch out is, I'll do another video that covers when and why you do pitch outs in more depth. But a pitch out just means that the pitcher is going to intentionally throw a ball into the other batter's box. The catcher is going to throw it down to second or third and have a much greater chance of getting the runner out. You're guessing that we think the runner is going to go on this pitch, so we're going to call a pitch out so that we have that high fastball. The catcher has a great chance to get that runner. So again, this is a play that you'd put on. So if a catcher says, we need to try to throw this runner out, we're putting on a pick out or a pitch out, you give the fist. The pitcher's going to say yes. The next one is pick over. So if the catcher sees that this runner has a huge lead at first base or a huge lead at second base, and the pitcher's not really paying attention, of course, right-handed pitchers can't really see down to first base very well, the catcher will just do this, or he'll like thumb over to first base. But this is the universal sign for pick over. Pick over to first base or pick over to whatever base. So he might do this, but really he's probably just going to like do this flicking thing with his thumb. That's the sign for pick over to the base. And then the last one, if you want to put on a pickoff play, if you're a coach, and from the dugout you want to call a specific pickoff play, then what you're going to do is we'll probably use one of the things you can do is use the hook 'em horns as your starter. So you'd say, if the catcher gives hook 'em horns, this is signifying to the pitcher and probably the shortstop needs to look on. So say there's a runner on second base, the coach would say, hey guys, when there's a runner on second, shortstop, make sure you're looking into the catcher so you can see if he gives a pickoff play. If that's the way your team does it, then that's something that needs to be communicated to your middle infielders, whether it's the shortstop or the second baseman or both. But hey guys, make sure you're looking in at the signs so you can see if a pickoff play is getting put on, okay? So Hook'em Horn says we have a pickoff play that's on. And now, since we have 3 different pickoff plays as a team, I've said, Hook'em Horns, there's a pickoff play, we're doing play number 2. Hook'em Horns, we're doing play number 1. Hook'em Horns, we're doing play number 3. Whatever it is. So that's a good way to communicate a pickoff play if, as a coach, you want to put those plays on from the dugout, all right? So that's an easy thing to do. You could do, there's other different ways to do this, but if you want to communicate it from the dugout, Hook'em Horns is a good sort of set of signs that you can set aside to do that, all right? The one thing I didn't cover in today's video is signs with a runner on second base. You're gonna have to do a series of signs to conceal which is the true sign from the base runner, right? He doesn't want to be able to pick it, you don't want him to be able to pick it up and relay it to the hitter. I'm gonna cover this completely in a separate video that I will link to in the description below. If this video is the first one I release, then whenever that one's done, just check in the description, you'll find that link. But that is a really important thing, so make sure you understand that you don't just give one sign if there's a runner on second base. You need to give a series of signs to conceal which is the true sign, so you hide your signs that way. But we'll cover that in another video. So hopefully today's video about catcher signs in baseball was helpful. There's a lot to know, I know. It does become pretty simple over time, and as I mentioned, good communication between catchers and pitchers and coaches is what makes all this very easy, because when a catcher knows what a pitcher throws, where he likes to locate different pitches, how they break, all the different nuances of a pitcher's repertoire, it makes the sign stuff a lot simpler because you become on the same page, right? So if he says, hey, fastball over here, I know that means maybe on the outer half for a pitcher with not very good command. Or I know that means on the outer corner for a pitcher with excellent command, right? Or if a pitcher only throws a 2-seamer, I know that when I say fastball up, he needs to know to switch to a 4-seamer because you don't really want to throw 2-seamers and sinkers up in the zone, stuff like that. So good communication is always an important part of baseball, especially when signs are given, all right? Thanks for watching. Check out the links in the description below for my books, online courses, other ways to support the channel. Please subscribe, share this with a friend, and I'll see you in the next video.